Hi everyone. What a lovely courteous driver. Thank you for that. Today is a video with a bit of a difference. Normally it's bikepacking adventures, some mountain bike rides, or some local cycling where I'm training for stuff. But today is a quick look at cycling infrastructure, because I haven't cycled in Ireland, Holland and Germany. It's amazing how different the cycling infrastructure is in different countries. I am starting in Crossroads in West Yorkshire, and I'm about to travel 6.5 miles to Steeton, and that includes the A629, which is a main route between Keighley and Halifax, and it also includes the alternative to the A629. It's the old road, I think it's the B6265, between Keighley and Skipton, and there is a major bypass and dual carriageway out that way as well. Trying to put this into context, I've used population as a good surrogate for, I suppose, number of people cycling. Appreciate West Yorkshire is quite hilly, so you will end up with a smaller percentage of people who are cycling around this area. But Bradford district, the Bradford metropolitan district area, is about 560,000 people, and actually that compares with the population of Dublin city, not the greater Dublin area, which is actually 590,000, and the greater Dublin area, if you include all the suburbs around the M50, etc., it's about 1.2 million. Halifax has got, I think, 74,000 people or 88,000 people. Keighley's got 57,000 people, and Skipton, the other end of this route, into the B6265, has got about 15,000 people. So in doing the comparison, what I'll try and do is show similar but or maybe even smaller towns in other areas and what the cycling infrastructure is like there. We're now entering Keighley in West Yorkshire, population 57,000, and interestingly we haven't seen any cycling infrastructure at all yet, despite this being quite a main road and very wide road between Halifax and Keighley. We are coming up on our first section of cycling infrastructure. It's one of the advanced stop lines, which allows cyclists to get ahead of stop traffic at traffic lights, and then if they're turning right, but otherwise it's kind of spot the cycling infrastructure on this route, really. Play a game of that. This next section probably isn't a fair comparison because it's showing samples of the cycling infrastructure in Dublin, along the quays, absolute centre of the city. However, this bit is actually Lucan, and Lucan is a population of 57,000, same as Keighley, basically. So this is segregated lanes and, leading into advanced stop lines as well. We are now back in the centre of Keighley. This is South Street. Still no cycling infrastructure. And we're coming up to one of the main roundabouts in the town. This is High Street, and we're now about to turn on to North Street. Now, I do appreciate that it's hard to put cycling infrastructure into small little villages, narrow roads, etc. But North Street's actually 4 lanes wide. Plenty of space to be able to probably take a little bit of room for cyclists and put a cycle lane down the middle of it or on the side of it. It does get a bit narrower at this section. Nice to see another fellow cyclist. Now, this is one of the real advantages of active travel. I've spoken to this guy a few times when we're commuting together, to just a little bit of chit chat, but it definitely makes the whole thing more personable. This is now the last roundabout before we go on to the B6265. So let's have a quick look at how Hull, with a population of 289,000 people, have done with their cycling infrastructure. It was reasonably good, but quite patchy. But there was dedicated, bus and bike lanes. but nothing compares
to Rotterdam, and the cycling is once again completely segregated. Actually, the bikes have right of way coming into junctions. As a cyclist said to me on a train from Keighley to Leeds to get here, spotted all the gear and got talking to me. Said he'd toured around the Netherlands and he'd never felt so safe on a bike. So every generation out cycling. I've seen grandparents, parents, children. It's that old one from the Tom Hanks movie. If you build it, they will come. You need to remember where you park your bike when you come to the train station here.
Dutch even have solutions for little country narrow roads where, you know, car goes down the middle, pedestrian or bike lane either side. And then if there's multiple cars, obviously there is enough room to pass, but they need to be mindful of who's on the bike lanes, etc. Right, back in Blighty, it's time for me to take the front and help my my fellow commuter. Let him draft behind me for a little while.
Did you? He likes the flat. It's a big lap.
I like the flat too. It's the hills I struggle on.
Oh no, hills.
You're right. You're built for hills there, aren't you? I'm not. See you later.
Okay, we've just done over 6 miles along these two roads, very little cycling infrastructure, and we're coming up to Airedale Hospital, which has about 3,000 staff. So you're looking at, you know, one of the biggest employers in the region. A lot of those workers will be focused on health, and I don't think many of them will commute. I'm not surprised, really, given, you know, it doesn't feel that safe along some of this road, despite the fact that these roads are wide enough to probably have some cycling infrastructure, cycle lanes put into them. Please bear with me for the next bit, because you'd question, is there a lot to be gained from doing the return journey? But actually, I think there's some interesting lessons here. And that is by looking at some of the small existing amounts of infrastructure that are there and how they could be improved. And equally just doing a few more comparisons with either Ireland or Germany. Nobody does allow the Dutch, so I'll stop showing videos of cycling infrastructure. This is the B6265 between Skipton and Keighley. quite a wide road, and off to our left is a major dual carriageway, the A629, which connects Keighley and Skipton as well. So this is the old road in effect. And while this road is probably wide enough, it's interesting to see a similar road in Ireland between Newbridge and Naas, both towns of about 24,000 people, 26,000 people. But that's actually got hard shoulders, which can be used as bike lanes. We are just coming up on one of the only sections of cycling lane along this road, and if you ask me, it's a little bit pointless because people live in these houses. They have to have a place to park, and that is what happens, people park in the bike lane, which is kind of understandable. There's even a disabled space in that bike lane we've just seen, so it's kind of pointless and a waste of money. Let's also take a closer look at this little interesting piece of architecture. This seems to allow the bikes to go onto the footpath for a short period of time to avoid the traffic lights. But the only time you would want to go onto the path there is if there was pedestrians waiting to cross and the lights had gone red. But then you are then forced to interact with the pedestrians, which, once again, I think back to the point about the parking and the people who naturally park in it, which annoys bikes, and then the fact the bike lanes there will annoy the residents because they can't park. I think any good cycling infrastructure has to address those different issues and make sure everyone's needs are taken into account for it to be successful. Okay, before we take any more lessons from Keighley's infrastructure, let's have a quick look at how they do it in different places in Germany. This is Stadtlohn, small village, which seems to have segregated everything. Here's Munster, 307,000, so probably half the size of Bradford. Lots of cycling infrastructure, although I do appreciate this is more central in the city.
We are in a small town or a village called Oldenburg. Once again, good cycling infrastructure. This is now the outskirts of Bretnose. Level 2 is about to send me right, but I'm going to go straight because I think I've seen another castle.
Is it me, or am I starting to feel a bit like the poor cousin of Europe? Anyway, this is back in Keighley. Once again, very little cycling infrastructure. Population 57,000. We've seen some of the smaller towns in Germany and what they've got. So, yippee! Here's a bit of cycling infrastructure for us. Tiny bit. One of these advanced stop lines again. And I think that's it in Keighley. I do appreciate there is a main, kind of a decent section between Keighley and Bradford. So lots of kind of cycle lanes, etc. They go all the way through Bingley and through Saltaire, etc. But yeah, Keighley does kind of feel like it's really lacked investment in this area. If I had a limited budget and there was one section of road I could invest in Keighley with some bike path, I think it would be here. So when I'm coming down this road in the morning, or when anyone's coming down this road downhill, your differential in speed between you and the car is quite small. You can probably do 25-30 miles an hour down here. The cars can go up to 40, but actually they don't tend to, because there's lots of speed cameras as well. So this would be the biggest impact is actually going uphill. So how do you deal with people who, once again, have to park outside their houses? And then on this side of the road, how do you try and protect the bikes and give them some visual space to operate in? And then make sure that the kind of cars, because otherwise we would end up slowing the cars down a lot as we're going up. Bikes slow down going uphill. I can manage between 5 and 10 miles an hour up here. which if the cars are waiting behind me, he's obviously going to get impatient. So yeah, this is the single spot where I'd recommend Bradford Council or Keighley Council, if we ever get one, invested some money on a bike path around here. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings for the last 15 minutes or so. Hopefully you found it useful. An interesting comparison of cycling lanes and infrastructure and roads in different bits of Europe.